Hi, I'm James Adam Tucker. For the past 35 years, I've been a director, actor, and editor right here in Hollywood. So today's topic, I'm going to talk about how to develop your story idea for your no-budget feature film. Now, this is not the only way to develop a story idea for your micro or no-budget feature film. This is just the way that I've used many times over the years. I've spoken in earlier videos that primarily I'm not a writer. So I write out of necessity. Sometimes I would get contracts in the past to make direct to DVD or even as far back as direct to VHS feature films for small distributors. And we would come up with ideas that could be made cheaply so that we knew what the budget was, and we'd want those ideas to be cheap enough so that we could do the things necessary to actually make the film and feed our actors and potentially sometimes pay them a little bit. But we also want to make a profit for us, for all the work that we're doing for the film we'd be turning over to the distributor. But again, this is talking about you today, 2025. You want to make a no-budget feature film. Either you want to try to potentially put it on YouTube. You want to try to get it on Amazon. You want to try to get it on Tubi. You want to go through Film Hub. So what I talked about in the previous video was finding the resources that you have. And once you have a location locked down and you have access to use that location, what I used to do was I would actually go to the location, take my little notepad. I'd go to the location if I didn't know. Say, for instance, it was a business. A lot of times I shot with businesses as my primary location. I talked a little bit earlier about a computer service bureau that I did a big production in years ago. So what we did, I'm gonna use that as an example as I explained to you what I did so you could modify it to fit your own needs and to fit the location that you have access to. So I'd go to the location, I would talk to the business owner. That's one of the very first things I would do. If they were nice enough to let you use their location for a small fee or even free, and it's still possible nowadays. Might not be possible out here in the Los Angeles, California area, but maybe across the country where you live in a small town. You may know a business, coffee shop, some kind of manufacturer that would love the publicity and would be willing to let you use their business in the film. So what I would do is I'd sit down with set a little time aside. I'd sit down with the owner or maybe the manager of the business, and I would ask them questions. Beforehand, I'd make a long list of questions to find out what their business is, who their customers are, how it works, how they hire new employees, how do they train their employees, how do they discipline their employees. And as you listen to them, and most business owners who started a business on their own and built it up to where, a point where it is somewhat successful or very successful, they love talking about their business because no one really asked them about that, and no one's really interested. Sometimes it's funny. Sometimes family members don't even know what their mom or dad who runs a business or has some type of career, what they do at work. How they make the money to pay the bills and raise their family. And it surprises me sometimes when I talk to people and they tell me their mother is this or their father is this, and they don't even know what they do. They don't even know what the job entails. The details of it. But again, if you talk to the business owner, you're going to listen and you're going to find out ideas. You're going to find humorous stories. You're going to find difficult stories that, revolve around the business, things that they did when they were building up the business, how they got started. So you sit there and you listen, you take notes. And I guarantee you that somewhere in the building of this business or the development or the expansion or the struggles that this business has, you're going to find an interesting story. And you can use that. Again, this doesn't have to be your primary story that you're making your film about, but you want to know about your central location. You want to know, say for instance, the character works at this location, and you want to know what they do and why are they there. You can make the character, your main character can be an employee. Your main character can be the business owner. It could be somebody new. A lot of times what I used to do in the past, I would make the new employee would come to work and he'd be shown the ropes. He'd be training with an employee that had been there a long time. And then that way you can, what they call in the world of writing, marble the details of the business into your story. And again, I want to stress that the location you get the production value location that you're going to build your no budget script around doesn't have to be the main reason for your film. It doesn't have to be the main plot line, but you want to build it in that world so that your location really fits into your script. There was a great movie that I really enjoyed. I think it was called The Machinists, and Christian Bale. He was the main character. And spoiler alert. It was all built around him working at that factory, but that wasn't the main part of the story. They could have taken that character and put him into any work environment. He didn't have to be a machinist. He could have been working in the supermarket, because the storyline was that he hit. I think he ran over somebody, hit and run, and then his conscience was eating him up. So again, the production value location can be called maybe like the skeleton that you hang your story on. And I've done that a lot in the past, and it works out well because it grounds your story in reality. It's just not all made up. You're saying that someone works at a manufacturing plant, and you really don't know, as you're writing the script, you don't know how that person would talk when he's at work. You don't know how his coworkers would talk. You don't know what they'd be interested in. So that's where it comes in. You can interview, if the business owner or the manager is open to it, you can interview them. You can interview some of the workers there. Maybe people that work in the back office, maybe some people that actually work on the floor. I'm using the manufacturing plant for an example. But you want to know as much as you can about that industry. If you decide to set your story within that industry, even if you don't use much of it, you still want to confidently be able to write about, what they do at work. Since this is going to be this location is going to be a principal part of your story. Like I said, it doesn't have to revolve around that, but you still want to write intelligently about what they do at work, and how they act, and how they talk, and how they dress. But the whole rest of the story can happen outside of the work environment. But again, finding that grounding production value location is a great way to make a no budget script, because you're in a position now where you have all this resources that are real. You have a set that's real, a real working set. What I've done a lot, and there's stories in the past of other filmmakers who shot in convenience stores when they were closed, filmmakers who shot in bowling alleys, in 7-Elevens, all kinds of businesses, gas stations, and they shoot at off hours. So that's another thing that you can do. If the business owner is open to that, you can shoot at hours when they're closed, so you won't interfere with the business. And most of us working in the no budget world of filmmaking, our crews are minimal. We're not going to be taking over their parking lot. We're not going to be taking over their break room, or the streets won't be lined with all of our production vehicles, because we don't have that stuff. And that's one thing you want to stress to the person who's giving you the shooting location, is that it's minimal. Sometimes I would tell people, think of it as a small student film, and I would actually tell them how many people I expected to have, and I plan how many days I plan to shoot. You want to be, business owners like to know everything in advance, and you owe them that. If they're letting you use their location, you need to give them the details, and you need to stick to those details. If you tell them I need your location for 5 days between the hours of 8 to 8, then you stick to those hours. And if they're going to still be open running their business, obviously at that time, you can shoot in areas of the business where you won't interfere with them making money, because that's one thing you don't want to come and get in the way. You don't want them to be asking you after day 2, well, how long did you say you're going to be here? Well, you know what, guys, I think you need to wrap it up for today. And that's why you need to really talk to the person who's giving you the location, and find out, what their limits are. Find out if there are days that you definitely can't shoot, because you want to work your schedule around them. Again, even if you're paying them a small amount of money, they're still doing you a favor, because, you don't want to be an imposition, or you don't want to cause problems with their business. They're doing you this gigantic favor by letting you use this valuable location that you could never be able to buy. And so you want to accommodate them. You want to be open. If you have to stop for a certain amount of time during the day because, there's maybe something they need to bring in, then you stop, you get out of their way. You don't try to, say, oh, we're shooting. You guys have to be quiet. And that's another thing too you want to keep in mind. Is this a business that is noisy? Will it interfere with you actually making your film? Because some businesses don't, they're noisy and they don't, you're going to have people coming in. You're going to have somebody in the back, people with machines that make a lot of noise. And you may not hear that when you arrive on the set to interview them or when you come to location scout. So you have to come back on different days and find out, how noisy is this place? Can we actually record sound here? Will this work? Are there so many customers that we really can't shoot here? Because you won't be able to afford any crowd control like police officers or anything like that, obviously. But you want to make sure that you can really shoot here and you can really get a good production made at this location. Again, you don't want to interfere with their business, with them making money. But again, you don't want to be so hamstringed that, there's so much noise that you have a terrible soundtrack, or you have employees that keep getting in the way and walking behind you in the shot. So those are the things you need to have in mind, and you need to find out, can we legitimately really shoot our film while the business is still open? Now, I've shot a lot in restaurants. I was fortunate enough on the East Coast to get a lot of restaurant locations, and we've always filmed during business hours. And some of the restaurants had the little rooms in the back where you could rent it separately, and so you really couldn't see the customers. And then the noise was never really that bad, because you're going to add production noise anyway, noises you hear out of the kitchen and stuff. And sometimes you have to tolerate that, if you don't have the money to pay for this location and shut it down, then sometimes you're going to have to work around some of the things that normally you would not want to hear any background noise. You wouldn't want to hear and I've run into this problem, you wouldn't want to hear the freezer running in the background, and sometimes those are the things you have to deal with when you're trying to get stuff for free. So be aware, don't go and cause problems, and don't be a pain and ruin it for any other filmmakers in the future. And just be a nice filmmaker. You don't want to get in there and change people's stuff and ask them if they can move this, if they can move that. You want to make those decisions before you commit to shooting at their location, because a lot of times business owners don't like photos taken off the wall. They don't like, tables moved out of the room and stuff stacked outside. So don't come in and try to be a bully. This person is doing you a favor. As I used to say, a friend of mine used to say, play friendly. But again, think of that location. Learn about the location, learn how the business works, or whatever kind of business it is. It could be an office setting. Learn how it works, how the employees actually do their jobs, and use that in the script. Again, it doesn't have to be the main driving point of your script. It could just be a B storyline, but it's going to really add production value for a no-budget script. And that's something that a lot of no-budget productions desperately need. So I'll see you in the next one.